Hi, this tutorial is about creating a custom wind controller in Unreal Engine 5. Creating a custom wind controller will allow you to control the wind and its effects on your scene. Wind is important, so we have published a few papers about why wind and wind simulation is important in games. This includes physical wind simulation, but also the virtual simulation of wind in games. Who is this tutorial made for? This tutorial is for people who already have basic Unreal Engine capabilities because it requires basic scripting skills. It's for intermediate level Unreal Engine users. We will be using blueprints instead of any C++ coding, so you can tackle this issue if you have a basic Unreal Engine blueprint. After finishing this tutorial, you will be able to use the wind directional source, and you will be able to use it in different ways than intended, maybe. So misuse the wind directional source. You will be able to control wind rotation and speed on the editor, add wind effect to particle effects, add wind effect to foliage through materials, and you will also be able to control the wind through input actions. We will be connecting the wind to a custom blueprint that we will call wind controller, and the wind controller will call out for any particles through an interface and a material parameter collection, which will control the foliage mesh, and the particle will control the emitter. In Unreal Engine 5, there's already new developments for a custom wind material, but we won't be using this for now. First of all, we're going to create this wind controller. Let me show you what it looks like. Here we have the wind controller completed. I'm going to go over it and then do it one by one. We have a timer by event, and it triggers 5 times in a second, this function. And what this function does is first it sets our wind speed and wind rotation, and then it gets our wind directional source on scene and adds it a relative rotation, which is controlled later on by us. The same thing happens for the rotation. Set this arrow to rotate as well. Then we'll get the interface for the particles. So we don't want to trigger every particle, we just want to get the ones that are triggered by the interface. And we're going to set our custom parameter through some math. And then we have the material function, which we're going to control also here. And that's going to control the blades of the grass. So this is the basic outline of what we're going to do. Now let's go over it one by one. We're going to open a new blueprint actor. You can call this wind controller or wind actor, anything you'd like. Here I'm going to add so it's going to look like something like this. And then I'm going to add a text render. And I'm going to set its rotation to be the same as my arrow. And this text should state the wind's direction. You can say anything like wind direction. Or you might not even add the text if you don't want to. On the event graph, we're going to start by adding our timer. We want to set it to loop, and we want it to trigger fairly often. We want a new custom event here, and we want to name it. So this will make sure that we're not firing this too much. Like if we set it on event tick, it's going to fire too much, so it might burn our performance. We don't want that. So now I want some variables to store wind speed, and wind direction. And these might be afloat. So let's change the type. And first I want to set them. So now I need my reference. What is my reference? I want the wind directional source. I'm going to add this through the Place Actors panel on my scene. So just by this wind directional source given by Unreal Engine itself, we have the wind already for the foliage, which we can access through the Megascan library or the Speed 3 trees. These are the free Speed 3 trees for Unreal Engine. So if you get any Speed 3 tree or any material through Megascans, they will already work with this wind directional source. But the aim here is to actually control it ourselves and during gameplay. So now I want to get the reference to this wind directional source in my controller. And I'm going to do this with a soft reference. And I'm going to do this using the object reference. So I'm going to get this and I'm going to access its components. And I'm going to access the strength, first of all. We can call this wind strength as well. I'm going to set the wind speed in correlation to this. But I'm going to do a little bit of math here. First, I'm going to divide it by half by multiplying with 0.5. And I'm going to just add 1 so that it never is below a certain point. And now the rotation. This thing I'm doing because of a bug. So if I don't add this, it's not working correctly and you can test it for yourself. So this is making sure that I'm controlling the wind strength and the speed. And now I'm going to actually get the actor rotation and I'm going to get the whole thing. So not the components, but the whole rotation. So this one, I'm getting my own direction, and I'm going to make a rotator out of this, which I'll connect to the z-axis instead of the x, because I only want to change the z-axis. So this will make sure that it's rotating the same way as the controller. I want to rotate my own arrow as well. So I'm going to get this scene root and set the world rotation as well. You can do it with the actor rotation. but this is how I'm going to do it. So the same thing for this one. So we want to set this reference on the scene, and we want to make these ones public. So now I'm going to find it on my scene. I'm controlling the wind directional source through the wind controller that I just made. If I add the same arrow here, you will be able to visualize it better. So untick the hidden in game and the actor hidden in game. So my arrow here is also hidden. I need to unhide it. Now I can change it, but it's not connected to the foliage yet. In order to connect it to the foliage, let's have a look at the material first. So we have the master material for the foliage, which is here. And I have made some adjustments to this. I will also go over this one by one. But this is the existing structure with the wind intensity plugged here and the additional displacement here. And first I need to set a material collector for this, which I will show in a minute. So I have these scalar parameter and a vector parameter to control the foliage. So how do we do this? We need a material collection parameter, material parameter collection, MPC. Let's say wind, and in this I need a scalar parameter and a vector parameter. So for the scalar one, I'm going to give wind intensity or wind strength, and for the vector parameter, I'm going to say wind direction. So here, I'm going to make the necessary adjustments. So first I need my collection parameter, and I want to specify it to the one that I just created. Okay, I have a few of these. And first I want the direction. And to the direction, I want to normalize that first, multiply it with I'm going to multiply this with the intensity, break it to components, and then make a float 3. Because I need the float 3 for my additional VPO here. And this is for redirecting it. But the Z value I'm going to also get from the intensity. So I'm going to copy and paste this and make this the intensity or the strength. And I'm going to plug this to my C value. And on this multiply, I want to control this a little bit more. So here I'm going to multiply it by 10. And you can set this as a parameter as well. And I'm going to get the wind strength again and plug this in to the intensity value. So now I need to pass this along to my controller, and I need to set these values from my controller. In order to do that, I'm going to get my material parameter collection. So it should be under rendering and material. And I'm going to set both my vector and scalar parameters. And my collection is the wind. Set your parameter names. So my strength will control this parameter, and for the rotation I'm going to make a rotator and just get the set axis. And I cannot plug this in at the moment. I need to turn it into a vector. So let's check this now. This is for the grass. This is for my arrow. Yes. Now it's working. I can change my direction and the strength. The nice thing about it is that this will work with any Megascan asset that you import, because they're all based on the same foliage master material. Now we'll be looking into the Niagara system. So we have a blueprint, and in this blueprint we don't have much. We just have the Niagara component, and as the assets we have like any Niagara asset. Here we have the arrows, and here we have a custom parameter that I called wind, and we're adding velocity through that. So this is the basic setup, and then we're going to have the control here. And also we have this one, the interface here, so that it doesn't affect every blueprint that we may have, but only the ones that we want. Or maybe you want to change the strength of the effect, or you have different effects. So that's why we also have the interface here. First, we need an interface. We need a blueprint interface. And inside of it, we're not going to have much. Here, I have my interface. And we're just going to use it as a reference. So we want to get all actors with interface. and the interface is this one. And we want a for each loop. So for each one, we want to trigger this. So for each element, I'm going to get my component, that is a Niagara particle. And the rotation here, I want to get my wind direction. And multiply it with the wind strength, so that I have both values in action. So I still need to make the blueprints with the interface. I still need to add the custom wind parameter. So let me just type wind for now, and then I need to type the exact thing as the parameter inside the Niagara particle effect. So let's start with the particle effect. So I need a Niagara system because it only works with a custom parameter with the system. So I'm under user parameters, I want to add a new parameter. That is, it should be a vector. Is it? Yes, because it should be a vector parameter. And I need to use a very specific name for this. So this, you can copy and paste this one. So it should be the same, exact same. Now I want to add this scale velocity. And I'm just going to send this one there. So I will just create an actor. And here I can just reference this by holding it. And voila, it's here. And I need to add the interface from the class settings. While you're adding the Niagara, don't forget to add the blueprint version and not the Niagara system version. So now that I have added the vector parameter and connected it, let's check if this is working. So when I both add the direction and the strength, it's going to work because I multiplied simply. So this can be enhanced by using some math calculations here. So this is the most basic version, but you can dissect these and connect them to one scalar, one vector parameter, like here, in order to fine-tune this. So the last thing we're going to do is connect this all to the character. So you can add the third person or first-person character here, or if you have any other characters, you can use that. So basically, we're going to first get our controller, in the event begin play. So we need to event begin play, and then we need to get our wind controller. Oh, which one is the one that I just made? Let's select this and get it. So I only have one, so I can only get the first copy, and I want to set this as my wind controller. Let me delete this. So here I can set this. And if it's not valid, I can get a print string that says problem. And I can also print this one. And I can also get an append array, not array. Then string that says direction, and then this one. Okay, so I need to get the wind direction and add one, so that each time I hit this action, I'm going to add one to the wind. Oh, I got the wind direction. I should have gotten the wind strength. This is for the other one. Okay. So this is increasing it. Why can't you find the wind strength? Okay. Now I need to do the same for the decrease. Remember, I set this up from the actions, but you can use the enhanced actions as well. So this is increasing. And this is decreasing. So I can play this. not direction, strength. So I'm hitting increase, and then I can also decrease the wind. And each time I can trigger the event. Which is this update wind from here. This. For ease of use, you can also add a quit action. I've set it up for escape. Like this. And you can do the same thing for the direction. So I have the input action. Wind rotate. I'm getting that is valid. If it's not valid, I have a warning. I got the direction. I got the set direction. And each time I'm adding 15 degrees here. By the way, important thing, I set the direction value range to 0 to 360, so it doesn't go over this. And for the strength, I can get a top value of 25. And you can start with like 2 here, so that we have a base warm-up wind strength. So each time I'm adding 15 degrees, and then I'm updating the wind, but also we can use this here to give us information. You can clean this up further, and the same thing for the anti-clockwise. But here minus 15. Okay, let's test again. Now I can rotate them as well. And escape. So that's it. I hope this is useful for you in some way.